Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Today's guest is Cynewski, and I'm here to talk to her today about her business and her journey as an entrepreneur. So, thanks so much for coming on today. We're such morning people, which I love. So, thanks for recording this early with me.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
Yeah. So, a question I always start with, just so everyone gets a gist of you, what defines your lifestyle?
This is a good one. I would have to say this is like there's many things I could say, I guess, for this, like healthy, yogic, creative, spiritual. But what I really feel falls under this umbrella for me personally is eudaimonia. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with this word, but are you familiar with eudaimonia?
No, I'm not.
No. So this is a Greek word that actually years, I want to say like close to 10 years ago when I was just starting my yoga teacher journey, I found this word in a yoga journal and I was like, oh my God, this is everything. And it's just really developed in my life where I feel like this really encompasses my lifestyle. And it's really what it stands for is a combination of well-being, happiness, and flourishing. So it's
Wow.
a Greek word and it really stands for like the highest degree of human flourishing. And I feel like that really encompasses everything that I do, from like the yoga and the wellness, from creating purpose in your work and a career that you love, and creating purpose in your life and autonomy over your life. And it really goes into like the importance of relationships. It's just a different approach on human flourishing and on happiness. So that's like a long answer, but I would say that would be the word that defines my lifestyle.
I love that, and I totally can connect with it, and I think that's kind of amazing. Like it sounds like a beautiful like perfume or something like that too. So you could
Yes.
totally like brand it, but it's just so unique and it totally describes kind of like what we're trying to get at even with this show in general. So thank you for sharing. And can you share a little bit about your background story? Like how did you grow up? How did you get where you are today?
Yeah. So I always love this question because I'm like, where do I start? There's so many different areas. But yeah, so I grew up in Maine. I grew up in kind of like central Maine. And as a child, and even growing up in high school and college, I studied psychology in college. I've always been really into just understanding why people do what they do. Um, and then in my last year of college, or going into my last year of college, actually, my brother passed away in a car accident, and he had struggled with substance abuse and mental health. And so that really drove my desire to learn more about helping people and to understand, like, why do people make these choices? You know, how do you end up here in this situation, and how can you create a life that does make you happier and have more purpose and overcome these obstacles? So I would say that is like the groundwork for what sparked the rest of my journey after that, of really wanting to help people, is really the underlying base. And I really struggled after his death, and then kind of went down a bad road and got a lot into self medicating with alcohol and just kind of like numbing out, before I found yoga in my early to mid 20s, and that totally transformed my life and helped me just in the personal development area. And then after a few years really being into yoga, getting my yoga teacher training and starting to teach yoga, but working in corporate and really feeling super burnt out and super, climbing the corporate ladder, but still feeling very unfulfilled. And like, is this what life is? Is this like what my life is? It's just always trying to climb this ladder and not feeling super fulfilled or having purpose or like a deeper sense of happiness. And I went on a yoga retreat in Tulum. And even that was like crazy for me at the time, to take time off work. Like, I didn't want to take any time off. I wanted to be seen like as hardworking and super dedicated. And I went to Tulum and I had so much clarity and space come in. And I was just had this awakening of, this is how I want to live my life. I don't want to live my life in this hustle and this grind and this like living for everyone else around me, living for my family, like doing what I thought I had to do and I should do.
Mhm.
But I actually wanted to feel like this. I actually wanted to feel more peace, more happiness, more creativity in my life and my work. I wanted just more space to be myself and to feel that like high on life. And I remember being in Tulum. This was in like 2015, and being like, I actually texted my family and was like, I'm going to stay in Mexico and teach yoga and I'll figure it out. I'll find a way to get by. I didn't end up doing that. I ended up coming back, but it was just that moment that I dedicated to finding a way to live my life
Mm.
feeling that and feeling more purposeful, more connected. And then that kind of started the whole journey of I went on another yoga retreat 8 months later. And then I was like brainstorming, what can I do for work? Like, I'm going to start a retreat company and I'm going to,
Yeah.
like open a yoga studio over here. And I'm going to do like all these ideas. And kind of narrowed it down, like stayed in corporate for a while after that, but kept making moves
Mm.
towards that life, like started teaching more, quit that job, got a new job that was a lot more spacious, that I had a lot more autonomy over my schedule. So I could teach more yoga. So I could move towards that. Did like every yoga workshop I could, personal development, read all the books, listened to all the podcasts, but like really became obsessed with personal development and
Love.
improving my life and like getting to that dream place. And then eventually, I was living in Boston. I started my wellness events company, Be Well Events, in Portland. So I was like
Nice.
commuting while I was teaching yoga in Boston and still working as an outside regional sales manager based out of Boston. And then eventually in 2018, I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm going full time. And I jumped into full time yoga teacher and event planner. And then
Nice.
after about a year of that, I started having a lot of people ask, how do you build your Instagram following? How do you build
Mhm.
your community? How do you do events? Like a lot of what I had done, people were then wanting kind of basically coaching on. And so I ended up creating a coaching, and then that was 3 years ago. So now I do all sorts of business coaching and help other women and entrepreneurs build their business online and offline. And yeah, I think that's like everything
That
encapsulated.
is a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing. And I'm so sorry to hear about your brother, but I think it's amazing kind of how you took that dark moment, that challenging moment, and really transformed your life. And then after that, everyone else's life around you. So I think people can take a lot from that. I know we all go through dark times, whether we share it or not, but the fact that you shared it with us is like really powerful to me. And I think it just helps people connect. So I really appreciate that. Thank you. And I think it's amazing how you took kind of this experience when you were in Tulum in Mexico and you're like, wait, this is actually how I want to live my life. And then you took little action steps to get there versus like stay. I'm actually glad you said you didn't stay in Mexico and stayed to teach there because I think it's more realistic for people to come from the corporate world, have an amazing experience like that, and then start to slowly figure it out and transition. It's a little less realistic to be like, okay, I'm quitting everything, I'm moving to the middle of nowhere, and I'm not going to talk to anyone ever again. And we all think about doing that because sometimes we all want that because we get burnt out. But I think it's really cool that you kind of took that and then started your coaching business and you became a creative entrepreneur. And where do you think this drive came from, other than that experience with your brother? Like, was there a role model that you really looked up to throughout this whole time?
I mean, I had lots of distant role models. I mean, there was like other yoga instructors. Like I loved Catherine Budig. I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she played a big role in this for me as well. She has a workshop called Aim True, and this was kind of around that Tulum time
Mm-hmm.
where I went to this workshop in Boston, and it was really focused on like imagining your dream life. What would that look like?
Wow.
So I wouldn't say there was any like super personal mentors as far as like in my personal life, because I had such a different circle. Like it was all in corporate. Of course,
Right.
I had some really great bosses and things like that, but it was all very traditional focused. It wasn't
Yeah.
like, yes, quit, follow your dreams. Like everyone's like, you're crazy. Definitely don't do that. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah, that makes sense. But I think
So
it's cool that you kind of had that perspective of like, even though I don't have that in my normal 9 to 5 job, I'm still gonna follow this passion and focus on the personal growth and all of that.
right. Yeah. So I would say for me, like, no, I really didn't have anyone in my personal life that was super supportive. It actually made things very difficult
Mm,
because I see now how important that is. And once I did
yeah.
hire a coach, get into masterminds, get in communities where
Yep.
it was super supportive, I'm like, oh my God, this is a game changer. Like, how does anyone do business without this?
Yeah.
So there's such value in that. And at that time, like starting everything for me was really just people like yoga instructors on Instagram and
Right,
people that I
right.
looked up, authors and things like that.
Yeah, and to that point, I think when I started my podcast, I was the only one in my friend group. I mean, I have a great friend group. I'm really blessed to have them, but I was like the only one, I guess, that really wanted to start doing something like this. But it's kind
Mhm.
of amazing because we see all these people on Instagram, on YouTube, and everything, but it's nice how connected we all are. It's so easy to just reach out to someone, and I would say 20% of the time, if they're big, they'll reach back out to you, and it's just amazing how close we can find these mentors. So with this new like landscape of social media, I think it's not impossible to totally reach out to your role model and be like, "Hey, I'm doing this thing. Can you help me out?" Or "What did you think about this?" So I think it's really cool that you were able to do that too. And in general, how did you monetize and build a soul aligned business that you love? So you talked about kind of your experience figuring out what you wanted your life to be, but then how did you turn that into an actual business?
The first thing I want to say about this is taking action.
Yeah.
Because yes, I could get into like, oh, there's this strategy and you create a core offer, a premium offer, and all this stuff. But it really started with just taking like messy action. And it really is, I almost feel like that's like something we hear all the time, right? But it's so true. Before I had anything super sorted and super strategic, I just started teaching. I
Yeah.
just started, I did a lot of things that weren't like highly monetizing my magic from the beginning because it was really like learning and taking action and teaching and doing a lot of pop-up events that weren't, a super high monetary return, but it was amazing for building community. It was
Yeah.
fulfilling. I loved it. I still do it. It's a huge part of what I believe led into my business growth and what built that strong community and foundation. But then more so, definitely taking action is like
Yeah.
number one. You can sit back and learn the 10 steps and the how to's and the hire the coaches. But if you don't actually take action on anything that you're learning or anything that you're researching, you're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to monetize anything. So it's like
Right.
you have to take action. That's the first thing. I would say the second thing that was super transformational for me is I'm a multi-passionate, right? I am a
Yep.
creative. I have 10 different income streams. I do like to do a lot. I love yoga. I'll never stop teaching yoga, probably. I love events and communities. I lead international retreats, like several a year. I have many different coaching programs, from group programs and like creating offers to Instagram growth to like higher level coaching. So I have all of these different things. And for me, when I really switched gears from like the hustle mode and not making the money that was really supportive to me, and still questioning, like, am I going to have to go back to corporate, because how is this going to be sustainable? How do I really move from this like struggling artist type into like thriving and like being an overflow and making like those coveted 10K months or six figure
Yeah.
years? And that shift for me, more tangibly, of course, taking action still. But for me, it came to taking risks. I invested in a coach. That was a game changer for me. And then I really bundled my expertise into a core high ticket transformational offer, which is now
Mm,
for me Monetize Your Magic. And that's like my signature program that teaches people to create, market, and sell their magic. So it's basically
nice.
taking all of your expertise, all of your passion, what makes you uniquely you, and tying it into a super transformational higher ticket offer. This is, I think, really supportive, and it has been for me in growing my business. It has been for my clients, and it's also creates this deeper level of fulfillment where you're able to
Mhm.
impact people on a different level. I think this depends on like what you do
Right.
for work, of course, but for like, let's use the example of a yoga instructor, because that was me and that's a lot of my clients as well, or a fitness instructor or something like that. It's really hard to grow a profitable, sustainable long-term business if everything that you're selling is, you know, 40 or $50. Then it's really hard to, you know, that you have to do a lot of hours at that price, you know, at that rate, get you to where you want to be. Whereas you, if you focus the intentionality on a really deep, really high transformational program based on everything that makes you you and everything that you have to offer people, then you're selling things for a higher price, you know, in the
Mm.
thousands range. Then you can help fewer people really deeply than
Mm.
try to focus on helping everyone on the surface level.
Right. I love that. And they don't teach you this in school, folks. So
No.
I think it's really empowering that we're talking about this today and kind of what you were talking about, like messy action, like do something, like learning is great. But it comes down to how you put it into performance. And was listening to this podcast a long time ago before I started mine by Jenna Kutcher. It's Gold Digger. And she was saying done is better than perfect. Not to say that
Yeah.
you should put out your messiest work ever, but it's really important to be like, okay, I'm not going to be perfect at the beginning. Let's just do something, see how it goes, and then learn and shift and pivot from that. So I think that was a really, really important point that you brought up too, which I love. And then you were also talking about your events. Can you tell us a little bit about what an elevated event is?
Yeah. So, well, an elevated event to me is an experience that allows someone to come in and feel like luxurious. They feel
Yeah.
pampered. They're feeling like I'm growing physically, mentally, spiritually. I'm connecting with new, amazing people. Have you, if you've been to an event where you felt this and you're just
Yeah.
like, ah, I feel like I'm on like the drug of life. Like this just
Yeah.
feels amazing. It's like that energy is so hard to match for me. That's why I love
Mhm.
retreats and events, because it creates this insane transformation in my personal life. Hello, Tulum, but also in the events that I create, both like pop up networking events,
Yeah.
Be Well Fest, my signature yearly wellness festival and growth festival. All of those things, like that to me is an elevated event, something that makes you feel like you're just being pampered, you're growing, you're
Mhm.
connecting. Yeah, I love it.
I love that. And I think, especially through COVID, that's what we all coveted. That's what we all wanted to feel, but didn't. So I think having that experience somewhere, with an amazing group of women or people is like what everyone really is looking for at the end of the day. And how can people find these events? Like, do you share it on your Instagram? Like, how do you sign up? Is it in Boston, Portland?
Yeah, so primarily in Portland. I last year's Be Well Fest was actually in New Hampshire,
Oh,
so
nice.
I definitely have some plans to kind of spread out more into New Hampshire and Boston,
Love.
especially now. Yeah, so I would say definitely like bewellevents.com is the website for my events company, or bewell.events is Instagram.
Okay, cool.
Meet so many amazing people. Like
I
the
know.
connections that I've seen built through these events is insane. Like
Yeah.
anything from me meeting like my new best friends to
Right?
other people meeting their new best friends,
Right.
or like wellness providers, like booking out businesses, finding
Yeah.
clients, finding their new coach. Like there's so many connections. I've even seen people find like from photographers at events, like book them as their wedding
Yep.
photographer
Yep.
or like a chef, you know, like
Everyone's
it's
always looking.
amazing.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
so amazing. I love that. And that's why I love this podcast too, because I meet people like you and I'm like, wait, this is so cool. And then it grows and grows and grows. It's all about
I
the
really do.
networking and the connection. And I just love this energy. So this is great.
Oh,
I'll definitely have to come to one of those events. So,
yeah.
in your daily life, how have you cultivated your mindset, actions, and habit in your daily life, do you think?
Oh, there's like so many ways, right?
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is just commitment to a deeper level of awareness, to my growth. I'm always investing in growth. I haven't gone without a coach in 3 years,
Wow.
so like having that system built in where when I forget to come back to my power or ground myself, I have a community that helps me do that. So that's been really big. But that general awareness, of course, meditation, breath work, consistent movement for me is really big. I go
Mm,
to like 3 boot camps a week. I do
love.
personal training. I, of course, do a lot of yoga. So for me, like movement is big. I do daily hot girl walks. That's something that I
Can
implemented this summer. I'm not sure if you're familiar with a hot girl
you
walk,
tell
but I'm a
me?
big fan of it.
I've heard people
Yes, I
say it as
will.
a joke, but I don't get it
Yeah.
really.
So I think it was like a TikTok trend is where it
Probably.
originated. I'm not even sure from who, but then it kind of like went viral. And basically what it is, it's a 90-minute morning walk where it's kind of like a joke a little bit, but it is legit. Like I
Okay,
think it's
yeah.
like, oh, you're focused on, I think the general thing is like 90-minute walk where you focus on your like how amazing you are. So basically
Oh,
affirmations and things like that. But the way that I learned it was 90-minute walk. The first 30 minutes is a meditation.
okay.
So that's really either a guided meditation. I love Joe Dispenza. So when I often do like guided meditations by
Hmm.
him. So either guided or just plain walking silent meditation. Then the next half hour is like affirmations
I
or
love that.
doing something to like really focus on your future, what you're stepping into
Yeah,
during that next 30 minutes. Then the last 30 minutes is a growth opportunity. So, like listening to a podcast, like
I
doing
love.
something to spark new knowledge and inspiration. So, this is like daily practices that I teach clients that I always am
Yeah,
really careful about doing, like meditation, affirmations.
right.
It's like this groundwork for success all built in, and then getting your 10K steps. 90 minutes
Yeah.
is
Yeah,
10,000
that's
steps. So it's
amazing.
starting off the day. I've modified the hot girl walk for me. Like 90 minutes was a little
It's a lot.
too much for me to commit to with all the other movement and just time and everything like that.
Right.
So I do like a 30 to 40 minute hot girl walk
Okay.
where I'll like do a guided meditation or a podcast
Nice.
or a mix of the two, like something like that.
Nice.
And that's a really amazing way to just start your day grounded, start your day like focusing on your goals, feeling amazing, and like
Yeah.
coming back to yourself.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And do you walk outside or on a treadmill?
I walk outside. Like I said, I started this during the summer. And
Okay.
so we're going to see how that moves into
Winter.
the winter.
Especially in Portland. I grew up all over New England and it's like gets really chilly. But
Oh, yeah.
you can
Uh,
do it.
uh,
Maybe by then it will be
maybe
like a
so.
3 minute hot girl walk. But either way, as
Right.
long as you get it in, that's good. I love
Yeah.
that. That's so funny. Um, and I think it's great. Like sharing all of this information with other people similar to us and maybe not, like it's just really inspiring. And I think doing all this inner work really helps you as a leader. How did
Oh,
you
yeah.
use all of this to become a high performing leader?
I always joke to my clients that leadership, business development is really the ultimate personal development journey. Like you
Yeah.
are going to be tested. To me, leadership is really creating a movement and a mission, right? Like it's really standing boldly for something, even
Hmm.
when other people might not agree. It's not bending and folding
Right.
to everyone else's opinions. It's really standing boldly in what you believe and really owning that. So for me, I think all of these things are really the groundwork to leadership and to being able to show up confidently, to share boldly, to really be grounded in your authenticity, to own yourself. I mean, if you're not loving and owning yourself on a deep layer, then it's going to be really hard for you to show up as a leader and to try to guide others, to any sort of outcome. So I think all of these practices are the base work for leadership, for being I can't remember what you call that, high powered leader.
Yeah, high performing leader. That's really
High
great.
performance.
And do you think what's the hardest part about being a leader, do you think?
Hardest part about being a leader would probably be knowing and taking full responsibility, even when you mess up, even
Yeah,
when you're in the harder times, like holding the duality of both.
right.
Because it's really easy to be like leading people and high on life when things are going amazing and everything's working in your favor and like everything's going perfectly. You're getting amazing client testimonials and all of this. But how do you take responsibility, and how do you still show up and still share when things are really hard, when you have people wanting to leave programs, when you have trolls commenting
Yeah.
on something that you've shared online, or like all of these parts that are very natural of your
Right.
leadership, of you showing up boldly, of you speaking out, of you being a leader.
Yeah.
Those things are going to happen. So how are you leading yourself through those difficult times? And I would say that
Mm.
is the most challenging part, is like, how are you also holding yourself during those harder times?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's amazing. And I saw this post that was like, no matter how much money you make, no matter what you do for a living, it all comes down to how you treat other people, which really shows
Mhm.
your integrity. And even
Yeah.
if you're the richest person on earth, but you treat people like crap, it's just not
Yeah.
a really good trait. So I think it comes down to that when you are being a leader and kind of how are you treating the people who don't treat you that well. So I think that's a
Oh,
really important point for sure. And you've built such a big audience over the past few years, over 10,000, which is crazy. How would you profile your following, or how would you like describe everyone in your following? It might be hard to
mm.
do.
Well, everyone is super unicorn and unique, but
Exactly, but
I would I would say definitely badass. Oh, sorry, I'm not sure if I can
no,
swear
that's
on
fine. That's
here, but
fine.
definitely like badass, spiritual, wellness oriented. I do notice that a lot of my community has been through challenges, has been
Mhm.
through painful periods as
Yeah.
well. And they've risen from it, or they are catalyzing that into gold.
Yeah.
And I would just say like a lot of multi-passionate, a lot of wellness oriented women primarily are in my community. And yeah, I would say those things.
I agree. I love that. And I feel like similar to this podcast, I could describe a lot of the guests like that. And we're all
Mm,
so unique in the way we got to where we are. But it comes down to, I feel like, coming back to yourself with the wellness and being multi passionate and kind of just overcoming. Because I think I've been doing a lot of research for this side project that I'm doing. And I feel like everyone sees these perfect stories or these perfect people on Instagram and they're like, oh my gosh, their life is perfect and all of this. But our stories are so complicated and no one knows everything. Everything is so much more complex than what you see on a photo or in a photo. So it's important to know that. So, what has been one of the most impactful stories you have heard from one of your either people that you coach or you're following in general, do you think?
mm. Without picking out like one specific example, I would say a lot of the stories that I hear are just in the comments of, a lot of times too, when I share about addiction or mental health,
Mm,
a lot of people reach out in those times where they either have someone very close to them who is struggling, they've gone through it themselves, and
mm,
they say, I feel so seen, understood, connected. And I think that's something a lot of times that we can lack this day and age is the connection piece.
right.
And so that's a big one that I hear generally is, of course, like the stories of you've inspired me to change my entire life, whether that's in a wellness routine, starting yoga, whether
Yeah.
that's like following a dream, starting a business, going all in on my business. Of course, in like the coaching sense, like business development and that are a lot of like leaving 9 to 5s, like
Yeah.
finally having a career that's super fulfilling and beyond their wildest dreams, making more money than they ever imagined. All of those things specifically in coaching. So I would say it depends on like coaching or Instagram in general, but
Yeah.
those would be the ones that really stick out to me.
That's really powerful. Thanks for sharing. And what is one last piece of advice you can give to fellow bold, visionary women who are listening to the show?
You are limitless. Truly, the most limits that we have are really what we place on ourselves, of these ideas that other people have something that we don't have, and that's how they're able to do something that we want to do.
Mm,
I love the saying that gets thrown around a lot of like, if you have the dream along these lines, if you have the dream, then it means it's for you and you are made to do that thing. And I
yeah.
fully believe that if you have these big visions, if you have these dreams, I think back to the Catherine Big workshop when I did this, and I was like, that would be crazy. Like
Right.
me traveling the world, teaching yoga and transforming lives. Like this was word by word what I wrote.
Yeah.
Traveling the world, teaching yoga and transforming lives wherever I go, like impacting lives in a deep layer. And that to me was like, that's insane. That couldn't be for me. I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
But when you shift that mindset and begin to take action towards that goal, not knowing exactly how it's all going to come together, but keeping the faith that it will happen and taking the messy action to get there and taking the action to go along that journey, like you can truly accomplish anything.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. That gave me chills because I feel like just looking back, even to yourself a year ago or like 10 years ago, it's just like so
Mhm.
amazing where people start and how you get the life that you want if you make that mindset shift, which is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your whole story today. I was super inspired and this is a great way to start my day. Where can people find you so they can connect?
Well, I hang out often on Instagram at Cynewski. And of course, the Be Well page is at bewell.events.
Okay.
My website is catsnewski.com. And those are really the main places that you can find me.
Awesome. Awesome.
Oh,
I'll
and my
drop.
podcast, of course,
Oh.
The Wealthy and Relevant podcast as well. I put out weekly episodes over there.
Love, love, love. And I can definitely tell you're a fellow podcaster. You're a very well, good spoken person. So
Thank
keep it
you.
up. But I'm really excited to connect some of my friends to you. And hopefully I can make it to the next fest that you put on. And like I said, now you have a connection in Boston or New Hampshire. So let me know if you need help with anything. And thank you again for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Lily. My pleasure.